Hi, I'm Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on Newsfeed today. 320 children die of HIV/AIDS each day. We speak to a scientist who is fighting to bring that number down. The BBC accused of being biased by some on social media. A professor tweets about Indian food and says he doesn't like it very much. And a rain dance in Australia as water falls from the sky onto the bushfires. And at the top of our newsfeed, children and HIV/AIDS. Now, last year, as many as 320 young people died from the virus, every single day. And while there has been progress in the fight against it, poor access to drugs and limited prevention efforts mean there is still enough to be done. In 2018, there were about 190,000 children aged 10 to 19 who were newly infected with HIV. Of these children, 3 in 4 were girls. 790,000 children from newborns to the age of 14 were living with HIV and were not receiving treatment. There are regional variations globally, and some regions fare far better than others. 2.8 million children and adolescents are living with HIV all around the world. 9 out of 10 of those kids are in sub-Saharan Africa.
We're seeing some changing trends in the number of children living with HIV. So imagine that today in Africa, we have up to 82% of women living with HIV that are pregnant accessing antiretroviral treatment for their own health, but also to prevent mother-to-child transmission. But the same is not true in terms of reducing new infections, especially in the adolescent age group, adolescent girls in particular. So our own recommendation and call to action is much more focused on making sure we understand the epidemic from the life cycle so that we don't leave some of the children behind. Our treatment access in adolescents is nowhere near where it should be. But even for the younger children, only 54% of them are accessing treatment. We had a very big challenge for children, especially the youngest children, that normally in the West would have access to syrups that need refrigeration. So for the type of populations that we're dealing with across Africa, we needed to have the right formulations for the youngest children. And we have worked hard as a community, working with industry to make sure that they come up with sachets or pellets, granules that can be deployed in any part of the world where there may be no refrigeration for children to access. At UNICEF in particular, we know that when it comes to adolescents and young women, the way to reach them is actually through social media. It's very difficult, especially when you're looking at infections that are occurring around adolescent boys that are having sex with men. Reaching them through the normal channels is extremely difficult because they're just starting to understand their own sexuality, and the only way they engage is through their peers. The way they network is through social media. So, for example, in China, we have a program which is an online, offline type of approach, where online we're providing all the information, but we're also providing them with information about where services are delivered that are appropriate to their needs so that they can access them offline. But moving on, we also feel social media is very important as we think about data that we need to better localize where there's high activity and where infections might be happening. So coming up with geomaps by transposing social media data with the data that we routinely collect through surveys or programs to make sure that we have much more precision as to where we need to locate the services from where we were in 2000 to where we are today. Who would have imagined that 24 million people would be accessing treatment today. Even where we were a few years ago, when we look at mother-to-child transmission, 40% access to antiretroviral treatment, and now we've doubled that to 80% globally, 93% in East and Southern Africa.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the other things that caught our eye on social media. Now, this is a film called Blue Story. It's about two friends who become rivals in a street war. A screening of it over the weekend in the UK city of Birmingham ended in a mass brawl. Images of people carrying a machete to the cinema complex went viral on social media. The violence led some cinema chains to ban it. Now, this led to some people on social media saying that decision was racist, so some cinema chains have now decided they'll unban the film and show it again. Well, this is a man's kidney. It weighs 7.5 kilograms and was removed from a patient in India. To give you some perspective, an average kidney weighs about 150 grams. Now, doctors say the man is suffering from autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease. Apparently, his other kidney is even bigger.
Eating pesto gnocchi and garlic bread to keep me carved up.
Well, this video is going pretty viral on Australian social media. It's an ad campaign for the food delivery service Uber Eats, and it features Kim Kardashian West standing in as Kim from the Aussie cult comedy classic Kath and Kim alongside her netball best mate Sharon. Antipodeans on Twitter have described the ad as an Australian cinematic masterpiece, and my producers assure me it is pretty funny.
Ooh, nice.
Nice.
Kim, I don't mean to be rude, but it's actually pronounced nice.
Nice?
Nice.
Noise.
N-I-C-E, nice.
Noise.
Nice. Like ice. I like you. Rice. Pine lime splice. Thrice. Mice. Dice.
I literally have no idea what you're saying.
It's a Queen's English.
Well, this is 82-year-old Willie Murphy. Now, she beat up on a man who broke into her house, and that made her internet famous. The interview she gave has also helped.
I'm alone, and I'm old, but guess what? I'm tough. And you want to know what happens? He picked the wrong house to break into. I took that table, and I went to working on him, and guess what? The table broke. And it had metal legs, and I'm jugging him, jugging him, jugging him. And when he's down, I'm jumping on him. And the telephone is still on for 911. I'm running in the kitchen. There's a bottle of baby shampoo on the table. I grabbed the shampoo, and guess what? He's still on the ground. In his face, all of it, the whole thing. And he's trying to get up, and he's pulling. And I got the broom, and he's pulling the broom, and I'm hitting him. I'm hitting him with the broom, hitting him. And guess what? He wants to get the heck out of there, and I'm trying to help him get out of the house, but he's too heavy. I can't move him. He's dead weight. And at that time, the police arrived on the court.
Well, the new Star Wars series, The Mandalorian, is excellent so far, and one of the best characters is the baby Yoda creature. Just look at that. Now, obviously, images of the little thing blew up after it appeared in episode 2, so they were then taken down by the site Giphy over an issue of their legality, and have now been reinstated. As much as you like, use the Yoda gifts now you can. Now, the British Broadcasting Corporation has been caught again doctoring footage of the current Prime Minister Boris Johnson to make him look better. Last time it was the use of old footage to make him seem like he did not lay a wreath upside down. This time, an audience laughing at him has been edited out.
How important is it for someone in your position of power to always tell the truth?
I think it's absolutely vital.
How important is it for someone in your position of power to always tell the truth?
I think it's absolutely vital.
go around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Tuesday. Well, there is anger among some in Chile after a politician said peace and order can only be restored by violating people's human rights. The protests in Chile have been running for more than a month. They began over a proposed rise in the price of public transport on the metro. The president recently admitted that his security forces had used excessive force to try and stop people demonstrating. More than $1 billion in jewels have been stolen from a museum in Dresden in Germany. It's reported that the criminals may have set fire to an electricity junction box, disabling the alarm system so they could then break in. The thieves have taken stuff from the Green Vault, which the internet tells me is a world-famous treasure collection that was begun by Augustus the Strong, the ruler of Saxony, in 1723. And in Nigeria, people who live in an area that used to be called the Area of Idiots are celebrating after their area was renamed the Area of Plenty. The area, according to the BBC, got its name from a river which is called the Idiotic River. Now, the internet doesn't have any detail about how it got its name, but speculation suggests that since the British were the colonial controllers of the area, it may have been a British official who named it such in the 19th century. They were often drawing lines on maps and giving names to things back then. Well, next we go to India, where social media has been going nuts after a professor was asked to give a controversial food opinion and said that Indian food is terrible. It's not. Here's Nia.
Indian food, two simple words, but words that encompass a whole range of tastes, textures and emotions. Like a US academic found out, much to his detriment. You had Tom Nichols who tweeted saying that Indian food is bad, saying Indian food is terrible, we pretend it isn't, sparking off a very fiery debate on social media. He goes on to say, I think people whose eyes are watering, gulping water, sweating and telling me they enjoy it are doing it because they somehow are trying to embrace an authentic experience, not because they like it. Now, this controversial opinion was too much for a lot of people to stomach, and this is how people reacted. You had one Twitter user saying, there is no Indian food also, just like there is no curry flavor and no chai tea. You even had a celebrity host Padma Lakshmi saying that, do you not have any taste buds? Some even alleged that this entire opinion reeked of racism. You had this Twitter user saying, Tom Nichols turning up his nose at all of Indian cuisine reminds me how many other white men there are in international policy who consider themselves deep experts of the world while having the attitude of picky toddlers. Not just criticism, a lot of people also responded to that controversial tweet by sharing pictures of their favorite Indian food with the hashtag #MyFavoriteIndianFood trending on Twitter. You even had US presidential hopeful Kamala Harris tweeting out a video of her cooking Indian food. But there were many, of course, who said that Tom's opinions need to be taken with a pinch of salt. You had Chris saying that what he said is not about racism and doesn't signal the supremacy of one particular region's cuisine. Kiran saying, why should we get so upset about one person's opinion? And finally, this tweet summing up this entire controversy perhaps very, very well. Never thought food Twitter would somehow be worse than political Twitter. Whether you agree with Tom's opinions or not, this controversy has given all of us a lot of food for thought.
Food for thought. And last up, let's go to Australia, where the bushfires have devastated parts of the country, and despite crews doing all they can, they've been unable to control them until this. Well, finally, some rain. The exceptionally hot period led to fires which were categorised as catastrophic. The rain will be welcome, but summer is coming in Australia. Temperatures will go back up and the threat of more fires remains. But for now, here are some very happy fireys. Well, that will do from the Newsfeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. You'll find me at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel and you can follow me on Twitter. Follow, subscribe and add. See you again tomorrow.